No one really prepares you for what aging feels like. Not just the changes in the body, but the quiet. Not all quiet is peaceful. Sometimes, it's the quiet of days that all feel the same. It's the silence of a phone that doesn't ring on your birthday, or the stillness of a room once full of laughter that you've lived through so much. You've worked hard. You've loved deeply. You've given more than most people will ever know, but somewhere along the way, many of us start making small choices, quiet choices, that slowly take the joy out of living, and we don't notice at first. Until one day, we do. Maybe it's a doctor's visit that suddenly feels different, or an afternoon when you find yourself asking, is this really all that's left for me? But let me say this clearly. This video is not here to scare you or blame you. It's here to open a window, to let some light in. Because it's not too late. There's still life in you. There's still time to change course. That we're going to talk about 9 quiet mistakes that can slowly steal away your joy in later life. And more importantly, how to gently take your power back. You are not too old. You are not finished. And you still matter more than you know. Let's begin. Mistake 1. Believing passion dies with age. One of the biggest lies people believe about growing older is that passion fades away. That once you hit a certain age, 60, 70, 80, you're supposed to settle down, stay quiet, and let go of your dreams. That belief doesn't just come from inside us. It comes from the world around us. People stop asking what excites you. They stop inviting you to new things. Even your own family may treat you like your story is finished, but they're wrong. Passion doesn't go away with age. It simply gets quiet when we stop feeding it. Maybe you once loved music or gardening. Maybe you dreamed of writing or dancing or seeing a place you've never been. And somewhere along the way, you told yourself, that version of me is gone. But what if they're not? What if that part of you is still there, waiting? Passion belongs to anyone willing to feel again, to try again, even if you're not perfect at it. I once knew a man named Henry. At 74, he started learning the piano. His fingers were stiff. He could barely read music. But every morning, he sat down and played. Poorly at first, then better. When I asked him why, he smiled and said, for the first time in my life, no one expects anything from me. I get to do this just for me. That's the beauty of passion later in life. It doesn't need to impress anyone. It just needs to make you feel alive. Small blue diamond. Mistake 1. Believing passion dies with age. One of the quietest and most damaging beliefs we carry into our later years is the idea that passion has an expiration date. Somewhere between raising families, building careers, and caring for others, we begin to believe that the time for dreaming, creating, or exploring has passed. Society doesn't help. People stop asking what excites us. Invitations to try new things grow fewer. Even well-meaning loved ones begin to treat us like we've already lived our story, and all that's left is the slow turning of pages toward the end. And so, little by little, we start to pack away our interests. We stop painting, singing, writing, gardening, dancing, whatever once stirred something in us, because we tell ourselves, that part of me is over. But here's the truth. Passion doesn't disappear with age. It fades from neglect. When we stop doing the things that light us up, when we stop giving ourselves permission to feel alive, curious, and joyful, then yes, the fire inside us dims. But it doesn't go out. It waits, quietly, hoping we'll return. You might think, you've changed too much, slowed down too much, lost the energy or the time. But what if that version of you isn't gone? What if they're simply waiting for you to come back? You see, passion doesn't belong to the young. It belongs to the willing. Willing to feel again. Willing to try again. Willing to start something new. Not to impress anyone, but for the simple joy of being alive. Passion in later life looks different. It may be slower, softer, less showy, but it runs deeper. It's no longer about being the best. It's about reconnecting with what makes your heart beat a little faster. I once knew a man who took up the piano at 74. He couldn't read music. His hands were stiff. But each morning, he sat at the keys and played. Poorly, at first, then better. When I asked him why he started so late, he said, because for the first time, no one expects anything from me. I get to do this just for me. That's the beauty of passion in our later years. It's finally free from performance. It's not about achievement. It's about joy. It's about coming home to yourself. If you've let your passions drift. into the background. I want you to know they're still there. You're still here. And it's not too late. The spark is waiting. All you have to do is reach for it, gently, courageously, and begin again. Mistake 2. Treating the body like a burden. As we age, our relationship with our bodies changes. Things that once felt easy, getting up from a chair, climbing stairs, reaching for a shelf, can begin to feel like challenges. And somewhere in that slow shift, many of us start to see our bodies not as companions, but as burdens. We become frustrated with the aches, the slower steps, the way our clothes fit, or how our energy seems to disappear by afternoon. The mirror becomes a place we avoid, and without meaning to, we begin to treat our body like something that has betrayed us. But here's what we forget. This same body has carried us through decades. It has weathered storms, borne children, held grief, lifted groceries, dried tears, and brought us to this very moment. It may be slower now, yes. It may need more care, but it still deserves our love. Because how we treat our body, especially in later years, sends a message to our spirit. And when the body is neglected long enough, the spirit begins to believe it doesn't matter either. You don't need to look like you did at 30. You don't need to run miles or lift heavy weights. What your body needs is gentle attention. Small acts of love. Movement that reminds your muscles they still matter. Nourishment that says you're worth feeding well. Rest that's taken not out of exhaustion, but out of respect. These aren't acts of vanity. They're acts of dignity. They help you stay connected to your strength, to your steadiness, to your own sense of presence. You may not hear this often, but your body listens. It responds to how you treat it, even now. A stretch in the morning, a glass of water, a short walk around the block. These small choices tell your body, I still care about you. And your body, in turn, begins to care back. You'll feel it in your balance, in your clarity, in the quiet pride of standing a little taller. There are people in their 80s dancing slowly in their kitchens, walking gently through parks, lifting light weights in their living rooms. They're not doing it to impress anyone. They're doing it to stay present in their own lives. They're doing it because when you care for your body, you remind yourself you're still here, still capable, still worthy of strength and joy. If you've stopped trying, if you've told yourself, it's too late, let me tell you, it's not. You only get one body in this life. Don't spend your final years treating it like an afterthought. It's not about perfection. It's about remembering. You still deserve to feel good, to move freely, to live with dignity and vitality. Start where you are. Start small, but start. Your body and your spirit will thank you. Mistake 3. Living without a sense of purpose. There's something no one really talks about when it comes to getting older. The silence that follows when life no longer demands much from you. After years of responsibility, raising children, going to work, tending to the needs of others, suddenly, the calendar is blank. The house is quiet. No one is waiting on you. And while that freedom can feel like a gift at first, it can slowly turn into a kind of emptiness. Purpose isn't always loud. It's not always about grand ambitions or lifelong dreams. Sometimes, purpose is just the feeling of being needed. It's having a reason to get out of bed, a reason to show up for someone or for something. And when that sense of purpose fades, even the simplest days can start to feel heavy. You might find yourself wondering, what am I even doing anymore? Not because you haven't lived a meaningful life, but because no one told you that meaning needs to be renewed. Even in this chapter, the truth is, retirement doesn't mean the end of purpose. It just means it shifts. It gets quieter, more personal. You may no longer be the one in charge at work or the parent caring for young children, but you still have something to give. A kind word, a listening ear, a bit of wisdom, a presence that brings peace. Purpose doesn't have to change the world. It just has to give you a reason to greet the morning with open eyes and an open heart. Some find purpose in gardening, others in calling a lonely neighbor. Some find it in prayer, in volunteering, in taking care of a pet, in simply deciding, today, I will take care of myself with love. Purpose can be as small as cooking a meal with care, writing a note to an old friend, smiling at a stranger. These things may seem ordinary, but they're not. They're life-giving. They remind you that your presence still matters. If you've been feeling a little lost, if your days feel like they blend into one another, know this. you are not alone. And it's not too late. Your purpose hasn't vanished. It's just waiting to be rediscovered. You are still here, which means there is still something for you to do. Something only you can do, in your way, with your hands, your words, your love. Purpose doesn't retire. It evolves. And sometimes, the most beautiful purpose is the one you didn't expect. Quiet, humble, and deeply human. Mistake 4. Hoarding. Money but starving life. You've worked hard for what you have. Every dollar in your savings account carries the story of long days, sacrifices, and silent strength. It's wise to be careful, especially when you've earned every bit of what you've saved. But somewhere along the way, caution can quietly turn into fear. Many older adults begin to treat their savings like a lifeline, something never to be touched, only guarded. You tell yourself, what if something happens? What if I run out? And so you clip coupons, say no to outings, put off small joys, and tighten your world inch by inch. But what's the point of saving for a future if you're afraid to live in the present? Let your life be touched by the work you once did. Use what you've earned. Enjoy what you've saved. That is not waste. It is a way of honoring your past by living fully in the now. You've already paid the price. Don't forget to enjoy what you've bought. Too many people die with money left untouched, but hearts full of regret. They never took the trip, never bought the small indulgence, never lit the fireplace or filled the house with music. Not because they didn't want to, but because fear whispered, you should be careful. But care isn't the same as fear. You can be wise with your money and still let it bring you joy, comfort, and dignity. A bouquet of fresh flowers, a favorite pastry, a cozy sweater, a kind helper to lighten your load. These things matter. They aren't luxuries, they're life. So ask yourself gently, are you letting money protect your life, or are you letting it prevent you from living it? If you're still here, reflecting and finding value in these insights, leave a gentle 4 in the comments. Your presence matters, small blue diamond. Mistake 5. Believing it's too late to start over. There's a quiet belief that settles into the heart with age, a whisper that says, you've missed your chance. It doesn't shout. It creeps in softly. You hear it when you think about trying something new, but talk yourself out of it. You feel it when a part of you longs for change, but another part says, what's the point now? This belief doesn't just stop you from taking risks. It stops you from dreaming. It convinces you that reinvention is only for the young, that starting over belongs to people with time to spare. But here's the truth. Starting over has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with courage. Courage to imagine a different way of living, even after a long road behind you. Courage to believe that you can write a new page, no matter how the last one ended. Think of how many people you know who stayed stuck in a life that no longer fit them, not because it brought joy, but because they thought they had to. They stayed in routines, towns, relationships, not out of love, but out of fear that change was too late. But nothing is ever too far gone. You can start over emotionally by letting go of pain you've carried too long. You can begin again physically by taking small steps toward better health. You can start over socially with a new conversation, a new connection, a simple hello. And you can begin spiritually by returning to what once gave you meaning, or by seeking something new that speaks to who you are now. Starting over doesn't need to be dramatic. It doesn't require moving to a new country or overhauling your life. Sometimes, it's as quiet as waking up and doing one thing differently. One choice that says, I'm not done yet. I once met a woman who became a first-time volunteer. At 78, her husband had passed. Her children had moved away. For 2 years, she barely left the house. One morning, she said to herself, I can't live like this anymore. She signed up at a local food pantry. That first week, she was terrified. But by the end of the month, she said she felt more alive than she had in years. Her story isn't rare, but it is brave, because starting over isn't about erasing the past. It's about honoring it, by choosing not to stay stuck in it.so. If you've been telling yourself, it's too late for me, please hear this. It's not too late. It is never too late. As long as you are breathing, you are becoming. And that means you still have time to begin again. Mistake 6. Living on autopilot and withdrawing from life. There comes a time in life when the days begin to blend together. Not because you're not doing anything, but because you're doing the same things every single day. You wake up, make your coffee, sit in the same chair, look out the same window, watch the same news, and go to bed wondering where the time went. And then you do it all again the next day. At first, it feels comfortable, safe. Routine can be a comfort, especially after years of chaos, noise, and responsibility. But slowly, almost without realizing it, that comfort starts to feel more like a cage. Not because something terrible happened, but because nothing new did. This is the quiet danger of autopilot living. It lulls you into stillness, into repetition, and eventually, it can lead to a subtle kind of numbness. The mind becomes dull. The spirit loses its spark. The body follows. And you find yourself not truly living, but simply getting through. And you might not even notice it at first. You're not in crisis. You're not in pain. You're just drifting, but humans weren't meant to drift. We were meant to move, to grow, to stretch towards something. Even in our later years, especially in our later years, we need something to look forward to, something that stirs us from within. The good news? It doesn't take a major life overhaul to break free from this pattern. Often, all it takes is one small shift. Try a new recipe. Take a different route on your walk. Read a book from a genre you've never explored. Listen to a new kind of music. Call someone you haven't spoken to in a while, or better yet, someone you've never really talked to. These tiny actions may seem small, even silly, but they send a powerful message to your brain, to your heart, to your life. I'm still here, and I still care. Yes, it's tempting to withdraw, especially if you've experienced loss, grief, or physical challenges. Rest is important, but withdrawal isn't rest. It's retreat. It's a quiet surrender to a life that's still calling you forward. Let me ask you, gently, when was the last time you did something unfamiliar? When was the last time you challenged yourself, your body, your mind, your heart? Not to impress anyone, but simply to feel awake again. You don't need to fill every minute of the day, but don't let the days slip past you unnoticed. Engage, even if it's just in one small way each day, because life doesn't pause when we do. It keeps moving, and you deserve to move with it, not behind it. Still here and still tuned in? If you're finding these insights helpful, leave a number 6 in the comments. And if you haven't yet subscribed, consider doing so. Your support helps us continue creating videos that speak to the heart. Mistake 7. Clinging to draining relationships. As we grow older, our circle often gets smaller. Friends move. Some pass on. Family becomes busier, caught up in their own lives. And in that quiet space, it's natural to want to hold tightly to the people who are still around. But here's the hard truth. Sometimes we cling to relationships that no longer bring us peace. We stay connected to people who make us feel small, invisible, or drained, not out of love, but out of fear. The fear of being alone can be so heavy that we choose familiar pain over peaceful solitude. We tell ourselves, at least someone is there, even if that someone leaves us feeling worse after every phone call, every visit, every exchange. You might recognize it in the friend who always criticizes you, the relative who only calls when they want something, the person who makes you feel like a burden, even when you show up with love. And yet, you stay, because deep down, many older adults carry a quiet belief that walking away is selfish, that setting boundaries is cold, that we must hold on no matter what. But that belief isn't love. That's guilt disguised as loyalty. And it's not your job to sacrifice your peace just to keep others comfortable. Let me say this gently but clearly. You are allowed to outgrow people, even people you've known your whole life. Time served does not mean someone has earned lifelong access to your heart. Love is not measured in how long someone's been in your life. It's measured in how they make you feel when they're there. You deserve relationships that uplift you, that see you, that make you feel safe, not small. And if those relationships aren't present right now, it's okay to take a pause. Creating space doesn't mean giving up. It means making room for peace, for healing, and for new, healthier connections that reflect who you are now, not who you used to be. And yes, not every hard relationship needs to end. Some can change, but that change starts with honesty. Not blame, but truth. You may be surprised by what happens when you stop playing the role you've always played, and even if they don't change, you still can, because you have that power to protect your energy, to guard your heart, to choose peace over pressure. You didn't come this far in life to become a container for other people's anger, guilt, or criticism. You came this far to feel free, and sometimes freedom begins with a single word. Enough. If this message resonates with you, let me know by typing a number 7 in the comments. You are not alone in this realization, and your journey toward peace is something worth celebrating. Mistake 8. Abandoning your spiritual life. There's a kind of emptiness that isn't about loneliness or boredom. It's deeper than that. It's the quiet ache that whispers, something's missing, and for many older adults, that ache begins when we slowly lose touch with the spiritual part of ourselves. Not deliberately, not all at once, but gently, over time. Maybe you used to pray in the quiet of morning. Maybe you found peace in nature, or comfort in scripture, or stillness in meditation. Maybe you once believed in something greater than yourself, even if you couldn't name it. But life has a way of wearing us down. Illness, loss, disappointment. These things don't just touch the body, they rattle the soul. And without even realizing it, we drift out. We stop asking the big questions. We stop sitting in silence. We stop listening inward, not because we've lost faith, but because we've lost energy. And yet, even when we're tired, even when life has taken so much, the soul still waits for us. It doesn't punish. It doesn't rush. It just waits, quietly, for us to return. Here's something many people don't say out loud. Your soul still needs you, even now, especially now, because as the world quiets down around you, your inner world becomes more important than ever. Your spiritual life doesn't have to follow anyone else's rules. It doesn't have to look like church pews or formal prayers or rituals from your childhood. It only has to feel honest, alive, rooted in love, not fear. Maybe it's lighting a candle at night and whispering a few words to the heavens. Maybe it's walking outside with bare feet and letting the earth steady you. Maybe it's opening a journal and asking the question, what still matters to me? This isn't about being religious. It's about being real, about staying connected to the part of you that was never broken, the part that can still feel awe, wonder, surrender, even after all these years. Because the truth is, spiritual connection doesn't require youth. It only requires presence. It's not about having the right words. It's about making space for the stillness where the heart can breathe. So, if you've drifted, if the spiritual part of you has grown quiet, let this be your gentle invitation to return. Not with guilt, not with shame, but with grace. You don't need to earn your way back. You just need to come home, to yourself, to the sacred space inside you that still believes, still hopes, still knows. And if you're still here with me, still reading, still reflecting, let me know by commenting a number 8 below. It tells me that something in your soul is stirring again. Mistake 9. Believing there's nothing left to discover. One of the quietest, most dangerous beliefs that can settle into our hearts as we grow older is this: I've already lived the best parts of my life. It doesn't shout. It creeps in slowly like fog. You feel it when the days begin to blur, when nothing surprises you anymore, when you stop expecting anything new, new friendships, new joy, new meaning. You stop looking up. You stop reaching out. And little by little, you convince yourself that life is no longer something to explore. It's just something to finish. But let me ask you gently, what if that belief is the only thing standing between you and wonder? Discovery does not belong to the young. It belongs to the awake, to the curious, to those who are still willing to be moved. You can discover something beautiful in a single flower you never noticed before, in a book you never thought to read, in a stranger's smile, in a memory that suddenly feels new when seen through the eyes of grace. You can even rediscover parts of yourself, a laugh you thought you'd lost, a strength you didn't know you still had, a softness, a spark, a dream that flickers back to life when given just a little attention. Some of the most profound awakenings don't happen in our 20s. They happen in our 70s, our 80s, even our 90s. Because by then, we have the wisdom to appreciate what we once overlooked. The real tragedy isn't growing old, it's growing numb. It's becoming a silent witness to your own life, watching from the sidelines when you were meant to dance. Even if the steps are slower now. Let me say this clearly. You were not made to fade. You were made to unfold, to keep becoming. There is still music you haven't heard, stories you haven't told, sunrises you haven't fully seen, and parts of yourself you haven't yet met. You don't need to go far. Sometimes, the most meaningful discoveries happen just by paying attention to the present moment, to your breath, to what still stirs your heart. that it's not too late to be amazed. It's not too late to fall in love with life again. It's not too late to feel wonder. All you have to do is look up. And if you're still here, still listening, still open to all that life can offer, let me know by leaving a simple number 9 in the comments. Because that tells me your heart hasn't stopped exploring and never will. If you've made it this far, I want to say something very simple and very true. You are still here, and that means your story is still being written. And no matter how many years have passed, how many mistakes you think you've made, or how quiet your world has become, there is still more for you. More joy, more peace, more moments that matter. The truth is, no one hands us meaning. No one delivers purpose to our doorstep. It is something we must choose, again and again, one small step at a time. So if today stirred something in you, if any part of this message touched a nerve, a memory, or a longing deep inside, don't ignore it. That's life calling you back to itself. That's your soul whispering, there's still beauty here. Keep going. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just begin with one gentle act, a walk, a call, a prayer, a fresh decision. To be kinder to yourself, let that be your way of saying, I'm not done yet. I'm still living. I still matter. If this video spoke to you in any way, let me know in the comments. Just type a simple word or a number from the mistake that resonated most with your heart. Your voice might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Love letter. And if you know someone, a parent, a neighbor, a dear friend, who might need these words, please share this video with them. Sometimes one gentle message can change the course of a day or even a life. If you're not already part of this growing community, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. We're building something sacred here, a space where aging is not something to fear, but something to honor, because you're not alone. We're walking this road together, and there's still so much more ahead. So until next time, keep choosing life, keep showing up, and never, ever forget, you are still becoming.